Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and I appreciate all the courtesies. This is really pretty rare right now in terms of trying to juggle so many things that are open sessions. I'm very glad that today we're going to examine the President's trade agenda. In my view, the agenda has to be focused on creating more good-paying jobs for our people, red, white, and blue jobs. That means aggressively going after the trade cheats to make sure our workers are competing on a level playing field, and it means opening up new markets for the Oregon brand and the American brand. In just a moment, I'm going to have a brief colloquy with our friend Senator Crapo on a trade matter that's vital to us in the Pacific Northwest, and just a couple of additional remarks, and we'll finish with our colloquy. I know today we're going to focus extensively on NAFTA. That's where I'd like to begin. The President has certainly talked a whole lot about NAFTA for going on 2 years now, essentially since the start of the campaign. In May, the administration set the renegotiation process in motion. Despite that, neither the Congress nor the public has a lot of information on what the administration looks for in those talks. My view is NAFTA could use a complete overhaul. That means high standard, enforceable labor and environmental commitments, removing Chapter 19, which hurts our ability to fight unfair trade practices, and addressing challenges that are specific to dairy and wine and key manufacturing industries. We also have to combat currency manipulation, market distorting state-owned enterprises, and the trade cheats that this committee has documented get more and more sophisticated on an ongoing basis. That is not the end of where NAFTA, though, needs improvement. When container ships on the open seas begin to transform the global economy, our country fought for trade rules that protect American-made products we were sending around the world. The fact is, our country has not kept up with a key part of our economy that nobody talked about back when NAFTA was being written, and that is digital goods. The internet is the shipping lane of the 21st century and a great platform for the free exchange of ideas, as good as anything the world has ever known. That is worth fighting for, and it is long past time we had trade policies that reflected that new reality. So here's what our new approach has to be. Our trade agreements must protect the free exchange of ideas and information, and they must protect access of American-made digital products to people around the world. Just as we fight against countries constructing barriers to our manufactured goods, our ag products, they must respond when countries block American-made technologies, apps, and social media services. In short, we cannot accept protectionist approaches to the internet grounded in either mercantilism or authoritarianism. So no administration, now or in the future, ought to expect to have my support for any trade agreement that fails to include provisions that protect the internet as an open platform of commerce, speech, and education. Mr. Chairman, I look forward to discussing these and other issues. Just two last points. First, I think we have to be careful about potential obstacles in the road ahead. That means an artificial, accelerated timeline and a lack of transparency. It's been reported the administration hopes to conclude negotiations by the end of this year. I'm all for being swift, but I'm also a firm believer that you get results before you set a cutoff date. There's a serious danger that an artificial deadline will push negotiators toward lower standard proposals they know the other side will accept. That's not a recipe for success. Second, the administration, regrettably, has an abysmal record on transparency. The Commerce Department has been conducting what seems to be the most opaque trade negotiation ever with the Chinese as part of the so-called 100-day plan. It's unclear what factors are guiding the administration in the process, and neither Congress nor the public knows what sort of trade-offs or commitments are being made. This is being repeated in the national security rules of steel and aluminum. So I have some real doubts that the administration will be able to hammer out a high-standard overhaul of NAFTA if it turns a deaf ear to congressional and public input. Failing on transparency is a sure way for any administration, and let me just outline it, any administration to deal a potentially fatal blow to its own trade agenda. Finally, my colloquy with my good friend, Senator Crapo. Meaningful consultations with Congress and communications with the public are important for every aspect of our trade agenda. And there's a very important matter relating to trade enforcement where Senator Crapo and I have spent decades advocating for the lumber mills and lumber towns of America affected by Canadian export subsidies. He and I, along with the rest of this committee, both sides of the aisle, need to be fully apprised of any meaningful dialogue between U.S. and Canadian officials to resolve the ongoing dispute over softwood lumber and softwood lumber trade.
I agree, Senator Wyden. A trade accord that does not work for affected stakeholders is counterproductive. Going forward, this committee should be fully briefed on the details of U.S. proposals before they are made to Canada. Ambassador Lighthizer, as the statutorily designated lead in trade negotiations, you are critical to ensuring that that happens. Historically, USTR has been a key voice at the table in negotiations to find a durable resolution to this softwood lumber dispute, and your expertise is critical if the administration is to get the best deal for Americans. Thank you.
Senator Crapo, thank you for your thoughtful comments. And colleagues, it's important to know we're now up to 25 senators evenly divided between both political parties who care deeply about this issue that Senator Crapo has touched on. I'll close with one last point for the ambassador, because I'm going to be running back and forth between hearings this morning. I was heartened, Mr. Ambassador, when you said during your confirmation hearing that this question of softwood lumber was at the top of your list and you expected to be personally involved. We were encouraged by that. I hope that you will commit this morning to brief Senator Crapo and myself and all interested colleagues on proposals to date within 1 week of this hearing and consult with us regularly as the negotiations go forward. We very much need and want you at the table during those negotiations and consulting with us every step of the way. We want your trade agenda to be a success. Democrats and Republicans agree on that. More good-paying jobs in farming, in manufacturing, in services for businesses large and small. We can do that if you'll consult with us on a regular basis so that Democrats and Republicans on this committee can continue to look at ways in which we can, and Senator Stabenow probably says it better than anybody, where we can grow it here, make it here, add value to it here, and ship it to people around the world who are so anxious in my part of the country for the Oregon and the American brand. I thank you for your courtesy, and I want to thank my colleagues for letting me sort of airdrop in, and I'll be back and forth a little bit, and I thank my colleagues.
Thanks.